Zetsubou No Shima, a fascinating island taken over by Group 935 for horrendous experimentations. That to me does not sound very safe. So today we are going to go through Zetsubou No Shima and see exactly how safe this place actually is. Welcome to a safety check. Okay, we are on the lovely Zetsubou No Shima island and it's already looking a bit unsafe. I'm already seeing different safety things popping up, but you know, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. Let's start, of course, with the low tier risks. Now the first one I want to talk about is equipment on the map. See, I'm already spotting these little like barricade things that are placed around the maps, like this one here. And over here, I'm seeing a few of them, you know. They already look like they could be dangerous. They got little bits of electricity coming off of them, I don't know. And then you're coming into little spots like this and I'm starting to notice cages that you can turn on and trap people in. That equipment doesn't seem safe whatsoever. And we all know that you can actually get in one of those and go down. And I don't know how much I'd like to trust that thing realistically. On top of that, we have the lab that is covered in water, as we can see. All I'm going to say is I don't think half of this equipment will go very well with water. For that reason, I am going to give it a 70 out of 100. Moving on from equipment, we can now speak about the next one I identified, which is the weather elements on the map. Now, when you look at the weather, it doesn't seem too bad. You know, it's pretty cloudy, but you know, cloudy's not bad. It's not raining or anything, it's not snowing. But one thing I did notice is, as you can see in the skyline behind the clouds, is that at times it's actually lighting up. And that's because there is thunder and lightning behind the map. And let's not forget that at one point during the map, you actually see lots of lightning coming down around you whilst doing parts of the Easter egg. So I personally would not want to get struck by a bolt of this lightning. With that in mind, I have to take weather into consideration, and weather elements is going to get a 75 out of 100. Next up on the list we have a classic, and it is of course tripping hazards. Now, a lot of this island has overgrown, and because of this we're starting to see lots of tree roots coming up out of the ground over pavements and stones. These could be easy tripping hazards, like this one for example. I could actually walk across this and fall over. Or this one for example. There's lots around, like there is a lot of overgrown trees. I mean look, they are everywhere. Anywhere you go, chances are you might end up falling over one of these. And for that reason I am going to give it a 70 out of 100. Now, the fact that the island looks like this, I fear it's been abandoned for a while. And you can also tell that because of the hygiene levels on this map. First things first, it being completely overgrown, not very hygienic, especially when there's stuff like this all left out as well. On top of that, you have the classic blood all over the floor and human remains, which isn't hygienic whatsoever. And you know, normally I wouldn't give it too bad of a rating, but then you have to consider when you come down into the bunker itself and go into, you know, the living quarters, there's loads of dead bodies hung up on the frickin' ceilings that you can just knife open, you know, giving out toxic as well. And that's without mentioning all of the water that is going to cause dampness and potential mold in the map, and all the spider webs. None of this is hygienic whatsoever, and for that reason it's getting a lower rating, and it's actually going to get a 50 out of 100. Okay, we can now move on to our final low tier risk of this map. And once again, it is a classic, and it's actually going to be shrapnel. As you can see where I'm standing right here, flasks have been dropped and they have cracked, leaving lots of glass on the floor. Not great. And it doesn't take long to find more cracked lab equipment on the floor that's smashed and has left glass. And here they dropped loads. Like, look at the amount of glass that's there. And I do just keep on finding more and more glass just on the floor that you could really hurt yourself on. So yeah, shrapnel is definitely an issue, and it is going to get a 75 out of 100. Alright, so it's now time to move on to the medium tier risks. And the first one I'm going to talk about is electrocution. Now, we have to power these two generators, which have open electricity sources on top of them that I could easily touch and electrify myself. Don't want to do that. Of course, as well, we have also talked about the lightning and thunder, which has also just spawned out the planes, but we'll ignore that because we've kind of already mentioned that. But what I will mention is all of these little electricity, little power units here, and all the cables that are generating power and sparking when they hit the top there. And you know, that spark reaches those trees over there, that could set that tree on fire then. And that's a completely different hazard in itself. So electricity is a pretty big issue, and it is going to get a 40 out of 100. Moving on from that though, we want to talk about our next one, which is falling. Now, since we have to go onto these two different research platforms, there are places that you could fall off, like this ladder that, you know, isn't much of a ladder, but you can fall off it. On top of that, there are spots like this that are just completely not covered, not protected at all, that you could fall off and potentially hurt yourself. And once again, spots like this that you could just fall off, no ladder to protect you, that is potentially snapping my legs. So yeah, we do have to take into consideration that there are spots you can fall off on this map, and it is going to get a 50 out of 100. Now the next one I want to talk about is actually suffocation, something we haven't had in a while. But as we know, there are plenty of spores on this map that give off a bit of a bad toxic chemical kind of, I don't know, air. But yeah, there's these spores that give off like bad toxic chemicals that are left in the air. For example, when I knife this, look at this toxic one that's here that I could just sit in. Now, I don't know many good orangey chemicals that can sit in the air and be very good for your health. On top of that, there are spores around the map that you can shoot and it can do the same thing. And also, you know, the zombies that have mutated that you can also get the same effect from. Let's just put it this way, there's a reason you need a gas mask on this map. And considering that, suffocation is going to get a 50 out of 100. Okay, now this next medium to risk was something I didn't think I'd be putting on for this map. But I am going to put vehicles on this map as a safety risk. Now, surprise, surprise, there's no cars on this map, like I said, and that's why I'm quite surprised. But one thing I do have to take into consideration, that there are planes flying around in the sky. Obviously, there are none now that I want to look in the sky and try to find an example, but you guys have all seen the planes and know exactly what I'm on about. And on top of this, you know, you say there's one or two planes in the sky, it's no big deal. Oh, there they are, I found them finally. Anyway, you know, they're shooting at each other, that's no big deal. What are the chances that they crash exactly where you are? Well, I could say that about this plane right here that's completely crashed into the map. And this one looks in great condition. Or what about this one right here that's crashed at the spawn? Again, see what I'm trying to say here? Yeah, there is a chance that vehicles could affect us, and for that reason it is going to get a 60 out of 100. Next up on the medium tier risks is actually going to be the building stability. Now, like I said, we have a couple of these bunkers, which, as you can tell, are not in very good condition. Doesn't take a genius to notice that. And you can see this, like, look at the state of this building. It's horrendous. And the fact that, like, the stairs are completely caved in, not great. Now, all things considering, the bunker is in fairly good condition. I say fairly, there are still elements of it that are broken, like out here. And, you know, this part here that's completely missing its roof. So yeah, it does have to be put on the list, and it is going to get a 40 out of 100. So we have one final medium tier risk on this map, and it's actually going to be chemical hazards. Now, once again, coming to these outside buildings, outside of the bunker, if you have a little look down in here, there's a lot of chemical coloured looking fluids around here that look like they could be, you know, a chemical hazard. And you could say that it's just in this area, so it's pretty contained, you know. Not too much of an issue. But then we also face the same issue in this one as well, you know. They're just left on the shelf there. Not even put away. I mean, this has literally just got a cover in front of it. Like that's going to do much. And furthermore, we have another big shelf just left out in the open. So the chemical hazards could definitely be an issue on this map, and for that reason it is going to get a 50 out of 100. But with that said and done, that is all of the medium tier risks completed. Now we get to the juicy part of the risks, and that is the high tier risks, with the first one, surprise surprise, being drowning. Now if you haven't noticed, there's a lot of water on this map. Almost everywhere you go there is water. I mean, you spawn in water. When you come to turn the power on, you have to come into this lovely little room here. And you know, you can't turn the switch on, you have to go underwater and actually sit here and unblock these vents. Very safe. And of course, remember the pack-a-punch is completely underwater at one point. The living quarters has water all in the room. This lab has water all on the floor. And of course, if you want to get parts for the Pack-a-Punch or the Wonder Weapon, you have to go swimming in these caves, right to the bottom, which is very safe, of course. So drowning is a major risk in this map, and for that reason it is going to get a 5 out of 100. Moving on from that nightmare of a risk, we're now going to move on to our next high tier risk, which is being crushed. Now, as I mentioned earlier, there's parts of the bunker that have just blown off completely, which could leave potential rubble, like all of this on the sides. Now, personally, I wouldn't want to be under all of this. And with the roof looking like this, and nothing holding it up anymore, there's a chance that it could crush you. More could fall off like this bit here, and crush you to pieces. Now, bearing that in mind, I am going to have to give it a 30 out of 100. Now we have one more high tier risk for this map, and it is going to be explosions. Now there are a few canisters just left around the map, like these ones here, that, you know, they're not hidden away, they're not locked away at all. They could be a risk. Then you come up to labs, and there's more of them just like plopped on the floor, fallen over, and these ones even have danger. Not for flammable material storage. Not good, considering it's just out in the open. And there's more of them around here as well, in the same room. Just propped by the side. They are everywhere. These are not stored correctly. You cannot tell me these are stored correctly. So, I'm definitely putting this down as a risk, and for that reason it is going to get a 30 out of 100. So that said and done, we can move on to the miscellaneous side of these risks. And the first one I want to mention are the spiders. These creepy crawly little dudes coming around trying to kill me. I don't appreciate that. They sling webs at me, they try to bite me, and if you believe the lore that has been discussed on this map, they also do other things that I will not point out on this map. Let's just leave it at that, shall we? Spiders on this map are dangerous, and they are going to get a 40 out of 100. Now the next one I want to talk about are the anti-aircraft artillery guns on the map. Now, I know they were fending off different jets and whatnot, but they have just been left as static now. And also, anyone can operate these. I mean, there is a literal step where we have to go to one of these guns and load it and shoot down an aeroplane. They trust me to get an anti-aircraft artillery shell and shoot down an aeroplane. Why am I being trusted with that? I should not be trusted with that. I can't even be trusted to take out the bins every week because I'm that forgetful. That's all I'm saying. And for that reason, I'm going to give it a 30 out of 100. Moving on to another miscellaneous risk are the spores around the map. Now you have these little spores here that, you know, don't do us any damage really. But they definitely don't look safe in any sorts. But of course there are the other ones that spawn in as well that also give off toxins that can hurt you. And obviously, of course, create mutant zombies. It's something that we have to take into consideration, especially if we are looming around the map. And for that reason, I am going to give it a 40 out of 100. Now, we've spoken about how drowning is an issue on this map with all the water. But what we haven't mentioned is how deadly this water actually is, because a lot of this water is actually infected with element 115. Like, for example, the pool here, this lovely green pool, which I've just filled my bucket up with. And there's other areas as well, like up the other side of the map, where you've got to get the blue elemental water, or the purple elemental water. All I'm saying is, we should not be going around collecting buckets of element 115 water. We know how lethal element 115 is. So putting water in with it, and then just like splashing around like it's bath time, that is really dangerous. So it is going to get a 10 out of 100. Now we have one final miscellaneous tier rest that I want to mention. And we've already mentioned spiders, but let's talk about the queen spider. Now we all know at the bottom of this cave is something we do not want to see. Especially Takio. He definitely doesn't want to be down the bottom of that cave. I'm not going to mention why. And you know, these bodies will give you a perfect example of why as well. We have the biggest spider you will ever see in your life, just hiding down there. And the only thing that's stopping us from going down there right now is a cobweb. Now, I can go shoot this off and go fight it, sure. But what's stopping the queen spider from coming out at the same time and just tearing everything to pieces around here? I say not a lot. And for that reason, we are going to have to give her a 40 out of 100. Okay, so that is all of the risks for Zetsubou No Shima. Now we should talk about the safety features. Now, one thing I do appreciate Group 935 for doing with this map is adding safety signs around. Like this one here. Can't read it, don't know what it says, but that looks like a safety sign to me, so I will be wary. Or like this one. Again, I don't know what it says, but I do understand the word caution, so I will take caution. And also a flammable sign above here. Very handy to know. On top of this, remember we did see the explosive warning signs on the canisters that we were talking about earlier, so there are plenty of good examples of safety signs around. And bearing that in mind, I am going to give a plus 2.5 for safety signs. Now, one that we haven't really put out for a while on safety features is actually PPE on the map. Now, I did spot on the floor there was a hazmat suit laying about. So there are hazmat suits around that you can wear to keep yourself safe, which is good. And oh yeah, there you go. I did spot another one somewhere. So in the lockers, there are definitely hazmat suits for us to wear. On top of this, as you can see, we can also craft a gas mask, which is very good to counteract the spores letting off all those dangerous toxins. So yeah, I am actually going to put PPE on this map. While I haven't seen a lot, there is enough for me to justify giving it some points. So I am going to give it a plus 1.5. Now, last on this map, we are going to talk about the railings. Now, I did mention little bits like this, but overall the railings are pretty sturdy on these buildings. Considering how high they are in good shape. There's no falling off those parts. And even going down all the other parts, I mean, look how good these are. The only parts I can say is they're a little dented here and here, but that's nothing too major. They are all in pretty good condition. So I am going to give safety railings a 1.5. But that is all of the safety risks and safety features that I have identified on this map. Now, just to recap, we have equipment with a rating of 70, weather elements with a rating of 75, tripping hazards with a rating of 70, hygiene with a rating of 50, shrapnel with a rating of 75, electrocution with a rating of 40, falling with a rating of 50, suffocation with a rating of 50, vehicles with a rating of 60, building stability with a rating of 40, chemical hazards with a rating of 50, drowning with a rating of 5, being crushed with a rating of 30, explosions with a rating of 30, spiders with a rating of 40, the queen spider with a rating of 30, anti-aircraft artillery with a rating of 30, spores with a rating of 40, and 115 water with a rating of 10. Now, when you put all of those together, you get a 44.5 out of 100. But you do have to bear in mind that there are over 10 risks on this map, which does give it a -5. On top of that, there are also over 5 high tier risks, which also gives it another -5. But luckily, the safety features on this map are pretty good, with safety signs getting a plus 2.5, PPE getting a plus 1.5, and railings getting a plus 1.5. Bearing this in mind, it does get overall a plus 5.5 added onto it. So when you add up all of these scores, you actually get a grand total of 40 out of 100. That's actually pretty good so far. It's not great, don't get me wrong, but it's pretty good considering what we've had as of late. And bearing this in mind, it's actually going to sit in the at-risk category. Just, might I say. It is just on the cusp of being shut down, but it just makes it. And it goes just below the shattered veil, funny enough. Not great, but at least it's not in the shut it down category. But with that said and done, that is the end of today's safety check. Now up next, we have Gorod Krovi. Now thinking of the dragons and the state that that city's in, can't see it being very safe. But who knows? What do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments below what score you would give Gorod Krovi. And then I can compare it on the next episode. But until then, I hope you have all enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more. It would be greatly appreciated. Now I am going to get off this island before it's too late for me and I end up like Takio. All I gotta say is, poor Takio man, he had it the worst. Anyway, with that being said, stay safe.